Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, I want to spend a little bit of time today talking about machinery tags and doing restoration work. As you guys know, I do a lot of machinery restoration. That's what we do here at Vintage Machinery, is we bring in old machines, we use them, but we also restore them. And one of the things that I've really kind of struggled with over the last several years is dealing with machinery tags. And I've done a couple of episodes where I've showed how I restore old machinery tags. And this is one that came off of my Monarch lathe that I actually restored, or at least attempted to restore. The problem that you run into is sometimes the tag that you're working with is just kind of beyond repair. It's not something that you can really do a good job with. And that's when you kind of need to make the next step. If you really want to do a Class A restoration, and look at getting a new tag made. And that can be a little bit of a daunting task. For me, I know that there are ways of doing tag restoration work even at home, but I've never really jumped into it. It's just been a little bit more than I've gotten into in the past. But recently, my friend Tom Utley, who I've been kind of doing stuff with for the last several years, we've hung out a little bit together, we chat pretty often. He has gotten into doing these machinery tag restorations, and I actually worked with him to make a new tag for my Monarch lathe. So he took the old tag and actually made a reproduction of it that looks absolutely fabulous. And in addition, he also made a couple of tags that were actually missing on my lathe based off of some artwork and some examples that I could find some other people were able to share for me. So what I want to do is first I'll show you these tags that he made for me here, and he's done some other work for me as well. And I'm also talking a little bit about the process that he uses. He shared some of that with me, but we're going to be looking at it at a pretty high level. But also I want to kind of push folks, if you're interested in having some tags made, if you're needing this service, Tom is actually starting up a little home business where he's going to be doing this for other people. And he's got a website now. He's got his name of his company is Von Industrial, VON, industrial.com is his website. I'll put a link to that down in the comments of the video if you want to link to it. But if you got a tag that you're wanting to have a reproduction made of, or even if you just got a picture of a tag because yours is missing altogether, get with Tom and see what y'all can work out. The process is a little bit involved. You know, this is not going to be dirt cheap, but if you're really looking for that high quality restoration, sometimes you just need these tags to be just dead nuts on, and that's what Tom specializes in. So let me show you a little bit of his work. We're going to go put some tags on the machine. I'm going to show you some of the other work that he's done, and we're going to talk about the process that he uses. Let's start out by talking about this tag right here, because this is one that was on my Monarch 28-inch lathe when I got it. The previous owner, somewhere along the line, I don't know exactly who did it or when, but they took this tag off and they actually moved it to another place on the machine. Why, I'm not really sure, but when they did, they put it on a curved surface instead of a flat surface where it belongs, and it looks like they literally took a hammer to it and just kind of beat it out to get it on there. When I got this tag, and this is after my restoration, I mean, this thing looked terrible. I had to do a lot of work to this. In fact, I think I have a video where I showed some of this, where we really had to come in here and do a lot of sanding, a lot of scraping, just to get it where it looked this good. And then I went in and painted the backgrounds. So Tom was actually able to take this. I took the tag off, sent it out to him, and he was able to recreate the artwork. And from that, he made a brand new tag that's pretty much an exact copy of it, or at least pretty darn close. And you can see his looks absolutely fabulous. So in addition to that, I had a couple of tags that were missing, and they were little dial selector tags that go on the threading part of the machine. There's some knobs, and it has some letterings that tells you what is what. These were totally missing. I was missing two of them. I had a couple of them, so I kind of knew the design. I had the dimensions on the thickness and the width and the fonts and so forth like that. And I knew from looking at some other machines what was on these tags. And again, Tom was able to go in and actually make reproductions of these. These tags here are all aluminum. So this is about I don't know, 3/16 inch thick aluminum. This is just some aluminum plate here. And Tom has been able to make tags out of aluminum, brass, stainless steel, and steel, I believe, so far. And there may be some other materials he's played around with as well. Those are the ones that I've seen examples of his work. So anyway, we've gone from this to this, and we've gone from having nothing to having these. And now I think I'm gonna do is go over there. We're gonna put these on the machine and see how she looks. This is where the original tag was mounted on the machine. Originally, actually, when I got it, it had been moved, and it had been moved up here to this curved surface at the top. And somebody had come and drilled and tapped 4 holes in here, and they had a bracket sitting here that I'm not even sure exactly what it was for, but it was added on at some point. But here's our new tag that we're going to be replacing. And what I'm going to do is I've got some drive pins. These drive screws or drive pins. These are the little brads that hold these in place, and I got some brand new ones here. I'm going to, what I'm going to do is go ahead and stick that through, and I'm going to take a hammer. I'm just going to lightly tap that one to get it started, and then I'm going to go ahead and we'll place the other 4 drive screws and kind of do the same thing. These drive screws, you can get these from a good industrial place. I've ordered them from McMaster Car. I've got a nice selection of them because usually when I restore a machine, I'll pull a tag off and I'll replace these when I put the tag back on. So they're easy to drop, as you can see. Here you go, I found that one on the floor. And then what I like to do is take a punch, just a regular punch, and it's just better than hammering right up on that thing and risking hitting the badge and messing it up. So here you go, guys. There is the installed tag. As you can see, it looks absolutely wonderful. There's the old one, original one, after my restoration. And before my restoration, it looked absolutely horrid, but wow, what a difference it makes. I know some folks are going to ask what these holes are for. So these 2 holes actually are some screws in the back of this that are used to adjust, I believe, the hydraulics in the headstock. So those were actually put in the original tag, and I, of course, put them back in the reproduction one as well. Next tag is going to be this AB Selector, and you can see we got that one's going to go right there. I will note that this surface is curved, so I had to do a little bending to the tag to get it to fit there, but hopefully we got everything bent like it needs to be. I'm going to go ahead and drop my pins in here, and hopefully we can tap this one home. Oh yeah, nice. Holes line up good. There we go. Look at that. Perfect. Perfect. Much nicer. And the other one that's missing on this machine is this one right here that selects between feeds and for cutting thread. So basically it's just a selector switch for the quick change gearbox. It also has a curved surface, so we put a little bend in this, and hopefully we should be able to drive these pins home. And if Tom did everything just right, these are going to line up perfectly, and it looks like he did. Not that I had any doubts. All right, let's drive those home. And voila, all done. So between the originals and the reproductions, all my tags are on the machine now, and everything looks just absolutely great. So Tom, you outdid yourself. I've got a nice replacement one here, as well as some reproductions with some missing tags. And again, the machine looks absolutely great. So thank you very much. Looks awesome. Let's go look at some more of his handiwork that he's done and talk a little bit about the process that he uses to make these. So the next tag I'm going to show you, this is a tag that's actually off of a Norton multi-oil stone. So this is like a sharpening stone that had the three stones in it that you could flip around, and this is from one of the old ones. It has the cast iron base and the metal top. Norton still makes one of these. It's a great little tool. It's actually something I've been on the lookout for some time now, and I just haven't come across one. Actually, there was one at Arnfest this past year that somebody beat me to. I saw him walking out with it, and I'm like, you better be glad you found out before I did, because I have been hot to trot to find one of these things. I can remember using them when I was a kid to sharpen knives and stuff with. But anyway, I digress. Adam had one. He's got one of the old cast iron ones, which is, again, the one style I've been looking for. And the tag on the top of his was all messed up. Well, I've got a friend of mine who happened to have an old cast iron one, and his had a good tag on it. So I removed the tag, got it from my buddy, removed the tag, and I sent this out to Tom. And Tom was able to scan this into his computer, do the artwork, and basically reproduce the artwork on the computer. And from that, he reproduced this beautiful, beautiful tag that's pretty much an exact copy of the original. And he sent me one of them to send to my friend that's got his. He actually wants to restore his, so we're going to put a new tag on my buddy's. And then also Adam got one of these for his multi-stone. And in addition, he also there's a little tag that goes on the front, and Tom did one of those as well. These, of course, are done in brass. So anyway, very, very nice. And maybe one of these days I can find me an old cast iron one like that I can add to my collection. Like I said, I've been on the lookout for one for some time now. This here's another example of some of his work. This is the Kearney Trekker logo, and this one he just kind of did for fun. I guess you could say it's not really a reproduction, but he was playing around with some techniques or whatever, got the artwork here, redid this, and made some of these out of aluminum, and was kind enough to send me one of these along. Of course, I have my K&T mill, which I absolutely love, my K&T mill that I have over here. So this will be a nice little addition, just some shop art. And in addition to that, he also took the logo off of my Wells Index milling machine and made one of these. And again, this was he was practicing his techniques when he was doing these, and just absolutely nailed it. This is, while my Wells Index does have tags on it, this is not the right size, I guess, to go on my Wells Index. But this is going to become shop art, guys. This is shop art. But I wanted to kind of just show you some of the examples of the work that Tom is capable of doing in making different kinds of tags and so forth. So just absolutely amazing work here. And I've seen some other examples that he's done for some people. He's even made brand new tags for people that have done restorations and so forth and wanted to commemorate that restoration, did a custom tag for some of that kind of work. And he's even been contacted by some companies, actually some very old companies who don't have a good source to get this style of tag made anymore, and actually looking at doing some large runs of tags for some machinery that is still in production today. So anyway, a little bit about, just showing you some examples of his work. I want to take just a couple of minutes here and kind of tell you a little bit about the process that Tom uses to make these kinds of tags, just so you can kind of see what else is involved. And it's actually a pretty interesting process. So first thing you got to do is you got to come up with a design that you want. And there's several ways you can go about this. If you've already got artwork created, that really saves a whole lot of time, because honestly, creating the artwork is probably the most time-consuming part of the entire process. But recreating a tag, a lot of times all you've got is, you may have a tag that you can actually start with, get a good digital photograph of that, send it over to Tom for him to start with. If you can put something on there for scale, that is absolutely really nice, because it tells them exactly how big to make it. A good way to do that is you can actually take a couple of steel rules or rulers or whatever and lay it on both sides and take a picture coming straight down on it. Try not to get it at an angle so you got good perspective, or even better, go put it on a flatbed scanner and just scan it. Again, having something on there for scale. Ultimately, what Tom has to do is he has to convert whatever image that you've got, whether it be of an old tag or some artwork or what have you. He converts that from a raster format, which is the pixels in that photograph, into a vector format piece of artwork. In a vector format, instead of having dots, you have lines. So, everything on here would be generated in a line. And the nice thing about that is you can scale it up and down without losing any resolution. But it's also very important from the standpoint of the mask and stuff that he has to create, that it's actually solid lines with straight lines or whatever in there rather than individual pixels. The pixels can be a little bit problematic. So that is honestly, again, the biggest part of it is he has to take whatever that art form is and convert it over to a vector format. And he has some software that he uses to do that. And that can be very time consuming, particularly if you got special fonts in here that you have to recreate. That is not something just a standard font that he can pull up. And a lot of these older tags, the fonts that they have is not a font that you have in your computer. Maybe something close to it, but probably not an exact match. Once the artwork is done, the next step is that he will actually create a mask to go over the top of the piece of the metal. Now, the process he uses is a different process depending on the type of material that you're using, but most of these it's either going to go into an acid bath or some type of electrical bath where you have an electrical current flowing through there with some type of I shouldn't use the word solvent, but some type of something in the solution that will help dissolve metal. And what you want is you want to have a mask that covers up the areas that you want to be raised up high, and it's going to eat away the exposed metal in there. And what he usually does here is he uses a product called what's it called? Press and Peel Blue Express. It's a type of transfer paper, and he can actually run it through a laser printer. So this is kind of a plastic film, and when you run it through a laser printer, it's not necessarily printing onto that piece of paper, but the heat that it goes through as it goes through the printer, through the laser printer over the toner, the heat from that process will actually do something to this transfer paper that will allow you to transfer that image on there. So he creates a reverse. So everything that he wants to remain, he'll basically paint black. And when it goes through this heat transfer, that right there will actually go onto a plastic film that he can then transfer to the top of that piece of metal. And I've got some pictures here to kind of show you that process. And then he'll peel that off. You're left with a little black mask that's covering up the areas that you want to remain. And in the process, if it tears out or whatever, you can take some fingernail polish or something and put in some, cover up some holes if anything like that appears. Once that's done, of course, he puts a mask on the back side. It's just usually putting some type of plastic film on there to protect it. And he puts it into whatever solution that he's going to be running. And again, it depends on the type of metal that he's using. The example I'm showing here, he's actually doing aluminum, and he's using electrical current. So very similar to an electrolysis process where you have a positive and negative on there, and you've got a solution in there with some type of electrolyte, but that electrolyte is actually eating away through electrical current the areas in the background. And the etching process actually goes pretty quickly, again, depending on the type of material. The etching process does not take very long at all. Once the etching is done, then he basically has to go in there and clean it all up, has to trim up the outside edges of the tags, and then the next process is going to be the painting. So you've got the raised areas and the lower areas. Tom is actually using a powder coat product, so depending on the number of colors, either one color or multiple colors, he'll spray a powder coat on, bake it, spray a powder coat on, bake it again, masking off areas that don't need to be painted or what have you. And once the powder coat is all cured, he takes it over to a lapping plate with some very fine sandpaper on it. He's able to just kind of rub it around, and any paint that's on those high spots gets sanded off, and you get that nice polished look on the tag. So that's just a little bit about the process. As you can see, it is a little bit involved, and again, the artwork is probably, from a time standpoint, the most expensive part of doing this, most time-consuming part. But that's kind of the process Tom works. He's still perfecting his processes, but he's come a long way, and and really is turning out a nice product. And I'm sure that as he does more and more of these tags, that his processes and his quality of his work is going to even improve and get better and better. Not that there's anything wrong with what he's doing now. As you can see, he does a great job. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that. Again, if you've got some tags or something you'd like for Tom to take a look at, check out his website at VonIndustrial.com. Send him a note, send him some pictures of tags you might want to get recreated. He will do a single tag if that's what you need, or if you're needing a whole lot of them done, or big batches. I know he's even looking at some larger quantity runs of certain tags, just depending on what the customer needs. But great service there. I think he's going to be offering a very valuable service to us guys who are trying to restore old machines that really want to get that perfect restoration to be able to recreate these tags that are very often either missing or damaged beyond repair. So that's going to pretty much be a wrap on this one. I hope you enjoyed getting to hear a little bit about his work and getting to see a little bit of his work on a couple of my machines. And again, get up with Tom if you're looking for something like this to be done. And with that, we're going to be signing off on this episode. Thank you guys as always for watching. Leave me comments. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. We'll catch you next time around.